Yes, each and everyone want to come back again to the Nick and Dad podcast. World Cup time as we are heading into the last sets of games, the group games, and we are going to react to Group D, Group E, and Group F. Also Turkey, spoiled the party in the US as well, where they're looking for a three-peat in Group D. And Ecuador, coming from behind to beat the German, also Ivory Coast into the knockout run for the very first time, and Japan and Sweden all gone through as well with a 1-1 draw. So we're going to react to some of the big news, of Wednesday and Thursday as well in the World Cup. Here, Daniel, from Daniel Talk Football as well YouTube channel, and me, Nicardo Media House as well present for Nicardo Media House YouTube channel. What's going on with some of these World Cup reaction, as not many individual around the landscape of football would have probably predict that Turkey would have get that massive win, even though they're out of the tournament, but they spoil the three-peat party with the US men's national team.
Yeah, I think I wasn't really surprised that Turkey got a result from that game because USA already take their foot off the gas and they kind of rest a couple key players today. But the last game for this knockout stage have been brilliant. You get what I'm saying? There's a lot of surprises. You get what I'm saying? So, excited. Can't wait for the knockout stage. You get what I'm saying? I know that there's more groups to close out over the last couple of days and weekend, but we're here to discuss it and let's get to it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Group D, Group E, Group F, and also going to look back at some of the fixtures that played over on June 24th as well, where likes of Brazil, the Mexico group, the Canadian group as well. But look, we get start off some of the latest results, some of the latest reaction. And I really want to get started with Group D with the US men's national team. Australia, in the knockout round for the very first time of doing it consecutive, in Qatar, and doing it here as well, in the US, where they drew versus Paraguay. They finish, the group with 4 points as well. Paraguay looking strong as well, looking over the fence of, they will be right around the knockout round as well. But for Australia, surprise, not surprise of them into the knockout round again, like what they did in Qatar.
No, I think Australia have proved it in the first game against Turkey. You get what I'm saying? I think they were brilliant defensively. You get what I'm saying? They stuck in and they able to get that result against Turkey in the first. I think that game able to get them into the knockout stage. That first game was against Turkey was very crucial for both teams, and we saw that 3 points was very vital for them to get into the knockout stage. But that game against Paraguay in the last game was very timid. Both teams just didn't know what to do. To go for it or to stay behind, just wait. You get what I'm saying? So seeing that all that game went out, I was not surprised that game would draw. You get what I'm saying? I think both teams are very much limited when it comes to attacking. I think both teams are very good defensively. You get what I'm saying? Especially with Paraguay, especially what happened to Paraguay in that first game against USA, and they're able to stuck in against Turkey in the second game and get a 3 points. But kudos to Australia. They make it in the knockout stage just like what they did in the last World Cup, but they got stopped by Argentina. But let's see what they can do, because at this stage of the knockout stage, I am not gonna write off any team at all.
Yes, so we're looking at both teams. The possibility of Australia could face Iran if results hold as in the Iranian group with Belgium and so forth as well. And also, for the other team, could face Germany, in the knockout run if things stays. Paraguay could face, the German. Would you really see a matchup, with Paraguay if they manage to get one of those spots confirmed, which Germany is confirmed, you know, Germany versus Paraguay going to the knockout round. I think that's something that they can manage going into the knockout round.
Oh, Paraguay, Germany.
Paraguay.
I think that's where they fight in. I think that Germany have been very lackluster today against Ecuador, but I feel like Germany were already thinking that about the knockout stage. You get what I'm saying? So I think that kind of play a part. But I think that Paraguay will. I think quality wise, Germany will overpower Paraguay in the next stage. But I think that's where they fight will end for me when it comes to Paraguay.
And Iran, they were going to their last group game versus Egypt. If they can get any positive result, in that and results go their way, they will play against Australians. That will be a much matchable fixture for both team as well. But you're looking at it where US could easily create history of winning all three group games. Changes to the team. When you look at the starting 11, we see Joe Scally coming in, Trusty as well. Trusty scored a very good goal, from a set piece. Robinson, came in as well. You see the likes of Tim Ream, got Summers, and the players that were left out because of yellow card, like the Boligun, the Tyler Adams, those players so far, would have left out of the team for precaution. Christian Pulisic coming back into the match day squad for the first time since match day one. He came on in the second half as well. But the likes of Gio Reyna, Beralta, massive game for him. He's putting in, his hat in the ring of, letting Pochettino know that, listen, going into the knockout round, I'm one of the big hitters that, really banging on the door to get a start. We're looking at Weah, for the very first time in this group stage of him, I think played as well. Now, I wasn't impressed. I don't know what is happening with Weah. I don't know if something is personal is happening to the player, but his body language doesn't say it's enough for me on the pitch. Aronson, I think, had a very good game. Pepe, as usual, finish off the group stage on a high, even though he should have scored. But you're looking at that lineup, what's your takes, US men's national team losing 3-1, versus Turkey?
Yeah, I think it ended 3-2. I think you said 3-1.
3-2, 3-2, yeah.
Yeah, I think Timothy Weah kind of lost his way a little bit. I think he have a very average season at Juventus, and I think what happened with him, he kind of lost his identity as a player. They have him playing wing back at Juventus. You get what I'm saying? And remember, he is one of those core players with the Pulisic, the Western McKennie, and Adams. You get what I'm saying? So I think he kind of lost his way. He lost his starting spot in that USA team. You get what I'm saying? And he played today. He came off at the 58th minute. He was very poor, as you said. You get what I'm saying? But a lot of changes. You get what I'm saying? Brett Herder, man of the match for me. Was brilliant. He got a goal. You get what I'm saying? West McKennie was getting in the box, creating chance. You get what I'm saying? So this team was a lot of mixed players. Not the same starting 11. You get what I'm saying? So I wasn't expect that the US was gonna win this game. I think Turkey was definitely gonna come try to go out on an eye, give their fans something to celebrate in, very disappointing tournament. So I think Turkey, with the knowledge of don't have no pressure under them. They can play their football freely. You get what I'm saying? So seeing the US go with a very second string team, and also seeing that the Turkey won this game, I wasn't really surprised.
But I think the US as one of the host country of in this World Cup, I think they need a bit of adversity of going through some different challenges. Sometimes you want to be competitive in our group, and you want to be challenged as well. But still they would love to get this win, in the last game of creating history, in this World Cup, with them winning 3 games, in the group stage, 9 points that I've never done before. But I think, losing versus Turkey, yesterday in that game, I don't think that should really, put down any bad morality, around the place of the players, be looking over their shoulder. a bit of concern. I think they still should be proud, of themselves. I think they really started the game on a positive note. I think, the intensity, and just look at, the goals, that they manage, to score in. If you look at the games, I think they scored in each first half of each of those group stage games. So they managed to get off the mark of the in the games very good. I think they managed the game, very good from the minute one, right up to minute 20, 25 in each of those group stage game. So I think it's a building block, but they need to be challenged. They need to see what are some of the cracks around the squad. And finally, they got some tests. We know this game was going to be the game in this group where it's going to be the biggest test, and it's never how we want it to be, where Turkey have no real chance of going through. But they managed to come out, play for pride, because it was a lot of noise around Turkey, especially with the coach. I'm not sure if this will change any result, with the Turkey coach of him stayed or him go. But I think this US team need a bit of adversity, of them being challenged in this group where they can know where they stand around when the cracks are open, and a bit of a downfall of them not getting the positive result going into the Bosnia game, where Bosnia Herzegovina, that game will be on the Bay in San Francisco. That game will be in around 5 days time. Tough game. We'll see what the Bosnian team can do against Canada, Switzerland and Qatar. We know what they can do. Tough game for them coming up against Bosnia. It's not something to be joke around.
Yeah, I think the Bosnia team is a very tricky team. You get what I'm saying? You see how they got through this group. You get what I'm saying? They beat Qatar in the last game, and they got through. But I think that first game against Canada, where they got that draw, I think that's where they able to pull through. This is a very tricky game. I think the US definitely gonna be favorites. With the home fans and and all excitement. But I think this can be a banana slide for the US. You get what I'm saying? Because you don't know what to expect from this team. This is a very tricky team. Before the tournament start, we were classing them with Czech Republic, but they definitely have a little bit more about them than Czech Republic. But I think the US should be favorites, but I think this is a banana slide. We don't know what to expect from the Bosnia team. So I think
Yeah.
the US have to be very careful.
Yeah. Sorry, but that's it, around Group D. Move on to Curacao, Ivory Coast, Ecuador, and Germany, where, we see Cote d'Ivoire getting into the knockout round for the very first time in World Cup play. I don't know if that's kind of strange to say, but first time getting into the knockout round for a top country in Africa, but whether or not, they get there, Diamande, star of the show again. I can say that, he's one of the youngest African players to register assists since 1994, in World Cup history as well. And looking at, them beating Curacao, getting to the knockout round and Germany. I want to talk on that Germany game. We've seen the same reoccurring stuff happen, with this German national team of losing out, in midfield, getting run over, with the physicality of opponents, and I think the Ecuadorian coach Sebastian Becasisi, I think he really put the players in where they will be much more physical. The athleticism around in the Ecuadorian team is going to be a lot more. I think he took out Franco and he brought in, I think, the guy that scored Angulo, and he could see how he was running in the German midfield. And also when you look at what was up front, as well, it was a different type of a Ecuadorian team that played. Again, you could see the passion, you could see the energy, and the purpose and the conviction of trying their best not to get rolled over in this game. And it did work out. What's your stand around that game, Ecuador and Germany?
Yeah, I think that the German team started off very well, with Leroy Sané first goal in a major tournament for him. You get what I'm saying? But then the mistake making that same midfield he was criticizing, New Mancha lost the
Yeah.
ball, and then Ecuador break and score that goal against. I mean, that shot could have been deflected, but I think Manu Noah very poor. He was very late to that goal. But overall, I think Ecuador deserved to win that game. You know, I think they were more up for it. I think they have a lot more to play. And I was very disappointed in Nagelsmann. I think Nagelsmann could have freshened up the team a little bit, you know, give a lot of players that haven't played in some time to impress. You get what I'm saying? You know, he went with the same team, the same team for the last 3 games. So I think that way it went wrong. You get what I'm saying? And this is the first time Germany have lost to a South American team in the group stage of our World Cup game. So you get what I'm saying? That to show you that um, the Ecuadorian team have achieved some massive. But I am worried about this German team because I feel I remember early up in the tournament you was talking about that midfield and you were saying that midfield is not good enough, and I have to start to agree with you that midfield does not have any safety around it. I feel like once we give out one Germany lost the ball, the opposition team is just in. So I feel like I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't think they can stop it because I don't think we have enough off the bench. Or I don't think I don't rate Nagelsmann that enough to change it.
You think, moving from a 4-2-3-1, moving away from that would probably be a possible lineup where you could probably find somewhere to get Leon Goretzka to get some body and energy, and some physicality in that midfield. Probably take out one of Musiala or Ritz going forward because look, we know Sane is not up to par in this World Cup. Yes, he scored, and that goal, is what he scored. Pavlovic easily, his boot was very high, an Ecuadorian player, Pedro Vite, and that was a bit of a controversial call as well in that game. But you think Leon Goretzka coming for one of those 3 players playing behind, Kai Havertz would be a possibility of strengthening that midfield?
At this point, Kai Havertz shouldn't even be starting either. You know, Dennis Undav should be starting it. But I think he's gonna go with the same team, but I would have definitely bring Garaska in for one of those flair players. You get what I'm saying? I think you're right. I think I would have maybe bring in a Garaska and have 3 of those midfielder. Maybe bring Garaska in and have Garaska beside Pavlovic, and then have Numancha maybe playing a little bit more further up where Musiala play, or maybe play Musiala on the left side, or maybe just put Musiala on the bench because I feel like that midfield is gonna be getting overrun a lot. When imagine Germany beat Paraguay and go through and they'll have to face France.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a disaster. So I think that Nagelsmann, I hope he did his homework. I don't think this is just a one-off where Ecuador will just hope for it more. I feel like we have seen this over a lot in the tournament, and I think they're gonna struggle.
Yeah, I don't want to, overly criticize, Nemencha. I know he gave away the ball. I know he'd have a very poor game, but he's a very good player. But with him and Pavlovic in the midfield, they need help. They need massive help. They need someone in that midfield to give them extra body. And I just think going forward into the group stage of how consistently Nagelsmann been picking this midfield 3, they're going to need help in the eat because Musiala, the physicality is not his game. Tracking back is not his game. Florian Ritz, and it's not his game to be tracking back, defending deep, doing that for 90 minutes. And you could see like the midfield that Sebastian Bakasisi, the Ecuadorian coach, start Yeboah, Caicedo, Viti, and Angulo. That's a very powerful midfield for him, where he took out Alan Franco, which Alan Franco is not the quickest, he's not the physicality of his game. He's a more technical player that can keep the ball, but you could see the purpose of him taking out a player that who is not a real athlete in that midfield and bring athlete in that can run. I think the game that Germany played against Cote d'Ivoire really show up on how teams can approach this German team. And I think the coaching staff for Ecuador have done a fantastic job with their homework. The guy that scored Plata, that scored the first goal as well, the second goal to win the game. I think he was very good. But moving away from Germany game as well, but Ecuador, no, the Cote d'Ivoire team and Curacao. What's your takes of Ivory Coast coming from what happened in that Germany game and bounce back and to get a goal? Nicolas Pepe, getting a brace as well in that game. Diamande, would have said get the assist. The youngest African player to assist a goal in the World Cup play since 1994. What's your takes on them moving forward into the knockout round?
I think they're gonna be a very problem for teams. You get what I'm saying? I just think that they were very unlucky in that game against Germany. I think if they did take their chances, they would have definitely won that match. You get what I'm saying? But I think very excited team, a very young team, very fit team. You get what I'm saying? Diamante, I think is one of the most impressive team. But looking in as I'm looking at the knockout stage so far, as it stands, they might play Norway in the knockout stage. I think that's gonna be I think that should be a World Cup classic for me with the Ireland. I just think two teams they'll set up to just go at each other.
Go at it.
I'm saying. So I'm gonna be definitely thinking that they're gonna have a very good next round, but I think that where they lacking.
What's your takes on Ecuador? There's a high possibility they will face England because England more likely will tap their zone. There's a high possibility that Ecuador will face England. And I think probably somewhere in that Germany when they host the World Cup, I think England play Ecuador in the knockout round where Ecuador lost out in that game. But I think Ecuador can be a very tricky game for the English, especially what the Ghanaian team did. And I think Ecuador can really bring that game and even master that even better than the Ghanaian team.
Yeah, I think that England Ecuador game, if it's as it stands, I think England. You're right. I think England definitely gonna win the game. So I think that will be England Ecuador. But I think this is a banana side for England because I feel like Ecuador have a very good defense. They have a very good midfield with Caicedo and Vinto. I just think that Ecuador just lack a little bit quality up top. I don't think Valencia is up.
Valencia is up. Yeah.
I don't think it's up to it right
I think
now.
if he can get a goal or two in the knockout round, it will do good for the second team.
But that midfield, like England midfield, I'm worried about that England midfield because I can see Caicedo and Vinto just dominate that midfield because
they're so good on the ball. They're good on the ball.
And they're ready to stock in and so I think I don't that game for me is not a clear win for England. I honestly don't think that's like that. I think that game is up for grab for me because what I see Ecuador did to Germany today, I can see Ecuador overrunning and overpowering that midfield. Because if England don't shape up, I could definitely see that. Yeah.
If you look at it, the teams in this World Cup, they are going with a lot of pace, power, and physicality in the midfield. Yeah, because of the condition. You realize Kendrick Payes have not yet played a minute in this World Cup, and he's a player just like Florian Ruiz, Musiala. But I think if you look at this Ecuadorian team of trying to implement or to reinstate back Kendrick Payes in the starting 11, like what he was a regular starter, the first half of the CONMEBOL qualification round, who will he take out? And I think with him into this Ecuadorian starting level, he will be much of a liability on how the coach really want to play. What's your takes though of him not played not 1 minute so far in this World Cup when this is his era, one of the best golden era of Ecuadorian national team?
I think that him coming into the World Cup with a very poor form, he went to Strasbourg in France and never cut it. They sent him to River Plate in the Argentina league, and I heard that they are planning to terminate his contract, terminate his loan deal, and send him back to Chelsea. So I think that him not playing is not surprising. He leading up to all this World Cup, he was one of the bright stars that coming out of Ecuador. I think we could say that this is Ecuador generation of talent that's coming out there, the golden generation, you could say.
Yeah.
But, I think he's not playing. I'm not surprised, but maybe where They need someone, a little maverick guy, to come off the bench and change something. You get what I'm saying? But I don't know. I don't think I just don't see that changing at this moment. Because coming into a very tense game, if they're gonna play England, I just don't see that change at all for
I
me.
think this win for Ecuador versus Germany really saved this golden generation. And I was speaking to a lot of Ecuadorian fan during this morning before the game started, and they were much. I don't know where this positivity came from, but they were so positive that the Ecuadorian team could get a massive result versus Germany. You know that the game against Curacao and Ecuador, the coach, you saw him went to the stadium to greet his family and to to celebrate with them. In the Curacao game, the Ecuadorian fans turned on his family. In that game of the coach has is doing a such a horrific show and a very bad job at this moment for Ecuador, and they asked him to remove himself from the national team. So I think he really found back some love amongst the Ecuadorian fans, and they much really over the moon at this moment. You know what I'm saying? So I think this win is a statement win for this golden generation, and for them to go even into the knockout round and even to win one more game, that will really give them a bit of a positivity of it is a okay World Cup. It's not so embarrassed of couldn't get out of a group with Ivory Coast and Curacao, especially when you have the top two team and then the best of eight third spot will qualify for the knockout round. So I just think they really saved themselves of a bit of a disgrace as well. But looking at it, Inikapi, have a slightly doubtful for the knockout round. That would be massive as well. We saw the Milan man came on from Estopiniani, and Schlotterbeck is out for the campaign as well. Does Germany have one more player that is doubt? Is it Nathan Brown? Nathaniel Brown is doubtful as well for the next game.
Yeah, I don't see it. Nagelsmann say anything about him, but I think it's just a doubt. I think he should be okay by the time the knockout stage start. But yeah, I definitely think for sure that Stotterbeck is out. Very unfortunate. I think he have been very good in those couple games, but it's just very disappointed that out. But I think Nathan Brown should be fine by the time the knockout stage start.
Yeah, yeah. Group F, Japan is true. Sweden also true as well. Wonderful goal, for the Japanese where they drew that game. Look, Maheda his first goal of this World Cup campaign. Elanga, what a magnificent performance from him as well to get back the Swedish back in the game and to get themselves on 4 points where they can actually be looking into the knockout round as well. Netherlands, something about this Dutch team where they're looking more even better as the tournament progressing. It's like they really found that true number nine, Bradbury, the Sunderland striker. It seems like he's that X factor, going forward for the Dutch team. But what's your takes though of Japan and Sweden? Lack 1-1, but they still advance to the next round where both teams looking forward for the knockout round.
Yeah, I think that Japan is definitely my dark horse to go far. I think they have something up their sleeve for Brazil in that
Yeah.
knockout stage. But definitely both teams definitely deserve to go through. I think 1-1 was a fair result in that game against Sweden. You know, I think that I as you said, I really like how Japan play, but Sweden, I think Sweden gonna have to do more. I think relying on just Isaac and Jokeres up top. Let's see what happened in that Netherlands game. They got tear apart. You get what I'm saying? So I just think that definitely for sure that both those teams, I am way more impressed with the Japanese team. But going forward, I just want to see what the Sweden can do as far as defensively and in the midfield, because I just feel like that's where they kind of lack a little bit going for able to stay in games. You get what I'm saying? So yeah.
Yeah. I think the Swedish team, I think they have something about them where they kind of bit of an entertaining team, to really to watch. I think Victor Gyökeres was very frustrated in that game, and I think the Japanese have done enough to throw him off his game. He's got a few lookings. I think he got that big moment to get the Swedish team in a 2-1 in that game as well. Didn't slap that one in the back of the net. The Japanese keeper Suzuki is very good goalkeeper. I think he's keeping in Italy for Parma. I think if my memory serves me right. So I just think that it was a very good game. But looking at where's Japan, the Brazilian national team, and I think I'm looking at Sweden potentially can face the French team if results hold as it is at this moment. It should be a very much competitive game, but I think the French team will have just too much for the Swedish team, especially how they want to play expansive football, free flowing, attacking. Pata is not the best coach of setting up a team to, on the low block, defend deep, hit team on the counter. I'm not sure how well he can really go into that game to set up the Swedish team to sit low block, especially having, Elanga who must start. You're looking at Victor Gyökeres must start, Isak must start. That's three players already. So it's very, intriguing to see how he can set up a low block with those three high profile players. Will he sacrifice one of them and go with a 4-4-2 in a 3-5-2? We saw, what the Ecuadorian team did in their group phase, where they start out with a three at the back, then they go back to a 4-2-3-1, and then the last game against Germany they go with a 4-4-2. So we're seeing different coaches implementing different strategies to get result, and Pata as well. I think we should give him some credit. I think the Swedish team really bounced back as well after that 5-1 defeat versus the Dutch team. So I think they really did very well versus a very good Japan team. Not take that one away. You get what I'm saying? So I think it should be a much bright knockout run for those two teams, where the Swedish team looking for France and the Japanese looking for Brazil. And I think Brazil scored 4 goals in the last World Cup against a Haitian team in the knockout run that was South Korea. We know South Korea is a different kettle of fish than the Japanese players as well. I think Japanese are playing some very good, entertaining football at this moment in the World Cup. You get what I'm saying? But Tunisia, everybody punching back, of Group F, where they just conceded goals after goals. It doesn't even matter if they change coach. We have seen the coach got sacked match day 1 after a thumping defeat 5-1 versus Sweden. But 3-1, you're looking at where the Dutch team, got an opening goal. It was an own goal, from Shaqiri, but Bradbury, 2 goals in 7 minutes for the Dutch, and they really bring back the game a bit of life. I think the first 10 minutes in the second half, Tunisia look a bit bright. I think Hannibal really started getting his own in the second half as well. But Van Heck really took the game away from the Tunisian team in the 62nd minute, where, the Dutch team managed to get 2 wins and a draw in Group F. 10 goals scored and 4 goals conceded of the Dutch team in Group F. Very dominant team in Group F.
Yeah, I think they are one of the most exciting team in the tournament so far. I know you said that they just couldn't able to get that win over Japan in that first game, but Brian Bobby, very
Yeah.
impressive. I know he have a really good season last season at Sunderland. Able to get them in the UEFA league. But for sure, this team's gonna be very excited. I cannot wait to see that game against Morocco in the next stage. I think both teams play the same, full flowing football. They get my saying, but definitely for sure, this Netherlands team have definitely started getting their groove.
Yeah.
Nobody did have them as any
No.
to go anywhere, and they look really good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I think they have a lot of depth. They have a very good defense. Very good experience and youth. You get what I'm saying? So Somerville has really been impressive me as
Yeah,
well.
very impressive. They
So
have players that's coming off the bench, can change the game.
yes. So I just think that this Netherlands team is kind of very hard to predict right now. I don't think they are. one of the favorites, but I think like on a day, any day they make it to the semifinal, you never know. Why? You just never know.
I want to say this. They they replace the Van der Ven with Ake. Van der Ven picked up a yellow card in that first game versus Japan, right? And he's, cautiously of not risking it for him to miss the knockout round game, as the yellow card will carry over until the quarterfinal. Everything will release, erase. But I'm looking at that backline of, Van der Ven, Van Dijk, Virgil van Dijk, Van Eyck, and Dumfries. A powerful back four with the likes of, Nathan Ake can be the fifth player, rolling the dice if they need to make a change as well. But very powerful backline of physicality. The three players, or the three out of the four, except Van Dijk is not so quick, but really suit the way how this Dutch team wants to play.
Yeah, I just think that following the Dutch team over the years, they used to always have a very unique type of way how they play football. You get what I'm saying? It's a little bit of the tiki taka with the flairness of Brazil and the quickness of you say England. So you
Yeah,
never know what you're gonna get from this Dutch team. I think if you watch the Dutch league, you
The
realize
Eredivisie.
Eredivisie, like their football is very quick, almost kind of similar to the Bundesliga, but you just never know what you're gonna get. But seeing their bench, I'm looking at their bench, and their bench is really strong. You get what I'm saying? You have players like Van der Ven that can get in there. Don't forget this team have Lasso down Timber, the Arsenal fullback that
Yeah.
got injured at the last minute. You get what I'm saying? So this team is. I'm looking at this team. This team is
And I
really
couldn't see
good.
Timber getting any start in that in this backline.
Really? At
Yeah,
right back?
I just
Over Dumfries?
I just think, I think just the way how they kind of want to play that
I think they would
expansive
have.
open up.
I think they would have put him at left back at
So you
least.
think maybe of him be available, they will probably change it tactically with a formation set up of three at the back.
I could have definitely see Coleman put him at a left back because he does have the attribute to slot in as a left back, and he does play left back sometimes for Arsenal. Remember that season when Tommy Askew was injured,
Yeah.
when Ben White was out, there's a couple of players. So he doesn't have that. He does have that skill mindset to go over and be very good at a left back. But I just think that coming off a brilliant season with Arsenal. But I think you're right. I think Dumfries does suit the way how they play going forward. But I don't know, man.
And I think Van der Ven, I think even going forward, you probably seen Tottenham use him at left back. You never know. Even if they
Yeah,
can get
he's very
competent
quick.
centre back. And he's very quick. And I think with him playing on Virgil van Dijk side, that will suit Virgil van Dijk a lot as well. Even seeing this player covered so many, kilometers, for Virgil van Dijk of recovering runs and stuff like that. So I just think would have been, more depth, but I think maybe Koeman would have found some way to get him in the starting 11, but would have been tough. You get what I'm saying? But the Dutch team coming up against the one of the powerhouse of African football, probably the best African team of this World Cup, Morocco. You know how much you see that one, going, very tricky game for the Dutch team versus Morocco.
I think that that's definitely for close for me. I think yeah, as you said, Morocco has been very good. They're going up against Brazil. Came second in that group, but I think this game is not gonna be easy to call. But I'm still gonna edge. I'm gonna edge the European team. With a little bit more experience and stuff. But not counting out Morocco. The last time semi-finalists. You get what I'm saying? But this game's gonna be very edgy and very exciting. But I'm just gonna edge the European because I feel like the Netherlands team have a lot more depth. They can bring a lot of players up. I just feel like the Marca team rely on lots on Hakimi and Sabari up top. So I just feel like the Netherlands for sure will edge it.
Yeah, let's piggyback on what happened on the 24th when Group A B, and C played on the day as well. In Group A, would have seen how Mexico take charge of the Czechia team. Lots of changes in the team. Young teenager sensation, playing for Club Tijuana, Gilberto Mora as well. He was so good in that game. His passing range, everything. I know he picking up space, always dominating the midfield. Going forward, he'll be one for a shout as well of Avia Gear looking to how can I find a way of playing this young 17-year-old in this midfield? And for the guts for a coach to start a young 17-year-old in a game. Yes, Mexico would have qualified, but not many coaches, would have actually started a young 17 midfielder in the middle of the park. And with changes ringing out as well, where Rahul, Jimenez, is not in the team. Santi is not in the team. They go with, Martinez, the third choice striker, to lead the line for the Mexican, in that game versus Czechia. Would have seen Cesar Montes came back in the team as well. Left back changes as well, where Chavez came in for Gallardo in that team. Luis Romo came in the team. I think he grabbing his second goal contribution of this tournament. QN is getting his goal as well. Alvarado getting another assist. So lots of changes. Alvarez, so you could see that he kind of change up things a bit slightly, to suit the way all the Czechia team would have played, get height in the team, get a bit of a physicality in the team. But 3-0, for the Mexican, they have the advantage of playing the next two knockout round games in Mexico as well. And who would have predicted this? Where the Mexican 9 points in Group A without concede any goal. My big question, to you, we talk about the adversity of the challenges that the US team, would have got in that last game versus Turkey. You thinking that the Mexican going into the knockout round phases, of hosting this tournament, next two games should be in Mexico because they finish on top. They don't know what it is to play with their back against the wall, of going to any little challenges.
Yeah, I think that if I was a Mexico team, I would have definitely want to try somewhere else. Do you get what I'm saying? Because I just feel like the more you go in the tournament, you're definitely gonna start to play maybe a player away. And don't forget, playing in that Mexico City Stadium can be very toxic. Can get very toxic very
Yeah,
quick.
quick.
You get what
Yeah,
I'm saying? Because I watch every one of these Mexico games. I watch every one of them, and I'm telling you, in the first half, they have been very poor. You get me, very slow, lethargic. You get what I'm saying? So I just feel like at the moment I'm seeing that they might face Scotland. I definitely see they beating Scotland because I just feel like Scotland gonna under that pressure, under that light in that Mexico City. I just think that Scotland, if they do play Scotland, I just think Scotland gonna make a lot of mistake. And
yeah,
Mexico this gonna be pressing them, and you get what I'm saying. But for sure, I definitely can see they have a little bit more advantage of being at home. You get what I'm saying? But for me, the problem that I have with Mexico, the football have to start speeding up a little bit. It's
yeah,
too slow, too
yeah,
slow. You get what I'm saying? But if they're still able to get all three win, I think this might probably be the first time they ever did that before.
yeah,
Got in all three in the group stage. So
yeah,
yeah, I think definitely they have a shot, but I feel like they just need to improve a little bit more.
yeah. I'm looking at this Mexican team easily could face England in the quarterfinal, and that would have been key. Easily could face England into the quarterfinal, and
That's crazy.
I think Argentina is somewhere around that bracket of could face a Mexican team. Brazil, if they go all the way up to the semifinal, one of them, either Argentina and Mexico could face. So I think the
One thing I
Mexican,
must say though, I like there's a lot of matchup that I'm seeing so far where I don't think we have ever seen these matchup. Like we never see
And people
Mexico play
really
England.
question this expansion of the World Cup.
Yeah,
Where
I,
but
I
the
like it
knockout
because I've
round,
seen a lot of different matchup. I never see Mexico play England before. You get what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like
that
there's a
is a
lot of
high possibility, of
yeah.
them play England in the quarterfinal as well. But one thing I have to say though, in '86 they played 5 games. Yeah, their last game that they played against West Germany in '86, where they lost that game. It was outside of the Azteca. That game I think played somewhere up north in Monterrey. So they really yet to lose a game in the Azteca. And with them playing the next 2 games at home, massive, massive, massive advantage. And they have that advantage of well of playing in the altitude, in the heat, the altitude. I just think that the Mexican used to the climate. Why not play the football a bit more quicker? And take teams away, blow these teams away, score more goals, in the first 15, in the first 20 minutes is very important. You get what I'm saying? But I just think that the way how this Mexican team played against Czechia with not many of their starters in the team to win 3-1, 3-0, that's very impressive. You know that Julian Quiñones, the player that played out on the left hand side for Mexico, he scored like 35 goals in Saudi Arabia. And I think he scored like 50 plus goals in the last 2 campaigns, for that team. So I think he has been a very productive player in the last couple of years. Seeing him playing for Club America as well is really went on a different level, as much as people could say he's in the Saudi Pro League, but he's getting the goals. How many top players leave Europe and go to the Saudi Arabia League to score goals? Not many of them really scored more goals than Quiñones in the last 2 campaigns. So with them looking in, maybe there's a slim chance Scotland still can find them way and play Mexico. I don't think Scotland deserves to be in this World Cup anymore. What's your takes on that?
Yeah, they have been very poor. I think they have been very disappointed. I think I watched Scotland over the last couple of years, and especially in the qualifiers, and their football was very expansive. I think that last game in Glasgow, they won that game very convincingly. I don't know what happened. They make the football make a whole U-turn. They came to
Yeah.
the World Cup. They're scared to play.
Look at the game that
They,
they played Denmark.
they play.
Very, very attacking game. They're not
Very
home.
attacking. I don't know what happened. It's like they got a whole different coaching setup, and it's the same coach. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Look at that game against Haiti. If Haiti did have any little bit of quality about them, they could have lost that game. So I don't know, man. I think that they have been very poor, and I see a lot of people criticizing McTominay. I just feel like McTominay is not really getting help.
No,
His
he's not
team has
getting
been
help.
very poor.
I think the last game that he played versus Brazil, you see that he's playing a bit more in an advanced role, and he slightly get some looking in that game as well. And I just think that he seems like coming into this World Cup, Steve Clark never know his starting 11. Never know. He played 3 at the back. He played 4-4-2. He played 4-2-3. And I think in
All
all
over the
of those
place.
games, he changed this. He changed the front man in every game. You went with Trey Adams and the number 9 from Arch, Shankland. Then he went in the second game versus Morocco with just Trey Adams. Then in the third game, he gone back to Shankland with, I think, another player up front, and Che Adams found himself on the best. So I just think he never know
I
his
definitely see.
best,
I
his
definitely see
best team.
after this tournament he's losing his job. I see, you can see them
And
in action.
I don't want to say that I think they extend his contract for the next World Cup as well,
Really?
World Cup cycle. Yeah, I think so. If it's not the next World Cup cycle, it is for the next Euro.
I think they're gonna definitely gonna
It's going
bring
to
him
be
in.
hard for Steve Clark lose his job because what he have done, to qualify them for 2 Euros and a World Cup, which I've never done in the history of in history of Scottish football in the modern era, of a coach bringing them to 3 major tournament. He have a bit of a history on his side where it could probably
You
help
see him
his
have a
job,
lot
but
you see have a lot
with
of
all
credit
this
in the back.
team, yeah, a lot of credit. But I think with all this Scottish team playing, I think they are one of the worst team in this tournament to watch. They are one of the worst team to watch, but they have one of the best fans to listen and the passion to show on the pitch in the stadium as well. But quick one, South Africa, getting the best of South Korea in that game to advance to the knockout round, where we could easily see the South African, who they get in Canada. Is it Canada? The South African team will play. I'm trying to, yeah,
Yes,
they
yes.
will play Canada. So they will play Canada that first knockout round game on Sunday in Los Angeles as well. My goodness grace, the South African players really fought beyond the expectation of just to compete in this group, but to get beyond and over the expectation of getting out of this group, not as the best 13, but as the best second team in that group, where it was much of a challenge for them in that group A with Mexico, Czechia in that group, and South Korea. Disappointed in the Asian team this time around.
Very, very disappointing, man. Very this money must have a party. Very disappointing. But anyways, kudos to the Bafana. They fight their way
Yeah.
back. I think we write them off after that first game. 2 red cards in that game against Mexico. You get what I'm saying? And they fight their way back. They got a really good jaw against Czechia. You get what I'm saying? And they fight their way. They fight in that game. They defend for their life.
He left
You
it
get
for
what
the
I'm
life
saying?
after they scored that goal.
You get what I'm saying? So you have to give it to them.
And the coach, I think the coach deserves some respect. Hugo Brass, the
Yeah,
Belgium coach.
I
Yeah.
remember we were criticizing like what is this South Africa team was hiding when they were trying to not make nobody see what they were doing behind the scenes, and I guess it paid off. I guess
I
history
think they, I
really
think
paid off.
I think the more they played, they kind of
Yeah.
find their feet in the World Cup as well. You have to give them a lot of credit, but with us and other people that do match reaction and analysts and teams, they were very bad in that game. Yes, they got 2 red card. They lost one of their 2 best players, one to come off the bench and one to sit in that midfield role, Sitol as well. But I think, we have to give it up, for the South African team. I think they're very well defensive, organized team. And I just think that a lot of coaches see that, look, get the team organized, hard to beat, being stubborn is the way to go if you are lacking that bit of extra quality in the attacking third. Look at what the Ghanaian team do, just to disrupt, just to keep these big teams frustrated. And I think the South Korean team ran out of options. They were so frustrated with this South African team. I think the South African team allowed them to be in the midfield third, but when they get into the defensive third, they just run right ragged at them of pressing, being nasty, being compact, getting the ball away from the dangerous area as well. But for Group C, where Morocco beating, the Haitian team, it was a very impressive game. Saibari scoring again, but Isidore, what a cracker, for a goal from him as well. At one point, the Haitian team was 2-1 up, in this game, looking much like they're going to be the team that will spoil the Moroccan party in Group C. But the Moroccan team, man, you have to give it to them. They came back, Rahimi, the striker got a goal, and Yassin, got the icing on the cake in 89 minutes to bring that game 4-2. We talk about who the Moroccans will play in the knockout round as well, the Dutch team. But Brazil versus Scotland, we talk about how bad is the Scotland team is. You're coming up against a Brazil team, and you have so much physicality and aerial presence in that team, but you come and you need a point, and you giving goals away to the Brazilian team. Just like how can you be constantly passing up the ball when you're not good at the back? You get what I'm saying? And they just continue to doing it, and it just wasn't working. So I just think the Brazilian team, winning 3-0 on the day. Vinicius Jr., with a couple of goals. Cunha as well getting goals. We see Cunha kind of shift this Brazilian attacking line, where he came in for Thiago in the second game versus Haiti, and kind of bring a bit of a direction of how this team want to play with their 2 number 9 up front, can drop deep, create and run in space as well. But Vinicius, arguably the best player for Brazil in this tournament, whenever he get on the ball, he just seems like something's going to happen. This is a Vinicius that the Brazilian people wants to see as well, scoring all the games in the group stage. He's on 4 goals as well, getting up there with the likes of Mbappe, Erling Haaland and Lionel Messi. But what's your takes though on this Vinicius performance in the group stage?
Yeah, I think he's finally getting to get back his confidence. You get what I'm saying? I feel like his finishing have been very improved, compared to what he was doing in La Liga. But I just think that that change that Ancelotti make, taking out of Ego Thiago, you have not featured since that
Yeah.
first match. So, but yeah, I like that front three. I know Kune is not a natural number 9, but he definitely able to occupy the defenders up there. But I think that Brazil a little bit quiet. Nobody not really give him the
Yeah.
any show to go far and win the tournament. But for sure, Venus, I like what I'm seeing from Venus. I hope he can keep it up. You get what I'm saying? But for sure, Brazil gonna have to step it up a little bit, because I don't think beating Scotland, beating Haiti is enough for me.
Yeah.
I think if they played against Japan, they're gonna have to lock in, because this Japan team is just a machine that ready
Yeah.
to explode. So I think this Brazil team really gonna have to. But kudos to Neymar. Fiji got these features. I know it's not nothing.
Look rusty. Look really rusty in the
very,
game.
yeah,
Really rusty.
yeah. So
Yeah.
but happy for him. He's able to came back. I think the last time he played for Brazil was 3 years ago. But
Yeah.
for sure, Brazil just have to be a little bit more better if they want to go anywhere far.
And I think Brazil will miss, Rafinha. Regardless of Rafinha is not getting, the goal contribution, for Brazil in the big tournaments, but with his intelligence of pressing, running the ball as well, creating space for his teammate in attacking turn. But you have to give it up for Ryan as well. I think he really came in and really done a very good job over the last 2 games. So, starting that game versus Scotland, and he was very good in the game as well. With Vinicius, Cunha, and Ryan up front, I think it is a very good front three that can really press. And we have to give Paqueta some credit. I think Paqueta really, regardless of who's in front of him, the teams that he's coming up against, the 2 lesser competitive team in this group. But I think what we saw in the Moroccan game is totally different from what Paqueta did in the Haiti game and the Scotland game as well. So I think he really showed up, and I think he kind of bringing a bit of a more fine tune on how he should be playing. And I think Carlo Ancelotti, it seems like something is rubbing off where slightly, not too overexcited, but slightly, there's a bit of an organization going with this Brazil team. But I think with Brazil meeting better, proper, organized team, they will come under massive pressure of getting the result. And I think that if Brazil can, wipe the Japanese off the floor like what they did versus the Asian rival South Korea in Qatar, I think Brazil will have a lot of noise around them of trying to go deep into this tournament. But remember, when Vinicius scored that 30 something goal, or almost 30 goals in the entire campaign in La Liga, where you managed to get on the Ballon d'Or podium, Ancelotti was a coach. You get what I'm saying? Ancelotti was a coach, so Ancelotti definitely know how to get the best of Vinicius Junior. And I think the way you want to play with that, I don't know where Ancelotti get that 4-4-2 style of playing from, but it's a really impressive set of formation to play with these Brazilian of being rotation of different position, different spaces on the pitch, and running to different channels. So I think that with this Brazil team over the last 2 games really improve, and you open that as a Brazilian fan out there going into the next game, you want them to even improve even more, and you hope that Neymar can get a bit of sharpness in the next coming days, to get a bit more sharper going into the game versus the Japan as well. Yeah, so that's it. One thing though, I want to talk about. I talked to you about the Switzerland team, how they can really navigate themselves into group stage, and this is the very first time of them in the last couple of World Cup they managed to get on top of the group. In the last 2 campaigns before this World Cup, they would have been in a group of where Brazil would have been, and they would have managed to finish behind Brazil in two of those World Cup, in Russia and Qatar. No, they finished on top of the pile, spoiling the party for the Canadian players of not having the advantage of playing those two extra games. Now we're looking at, Canada will be playing on US side, coming soon. You get what I'm saying? So what's your takes on Jesse Marsh losing that game on home side versus the Swiss team?
Yeah, I just think the Swiss team was just class above them in that game. I think that they could have scored a lot more goals. You get what I'm saying? I just think that definitely for sure the Swiss team definitely start off a little bit slow, and they finally start to come in their self, and show their class and what they're made of, and stuff like that. But Canada, I think Canada should have enough to get over to beat South Africa. You get what I'm saying? Regardless if they're playing on the USR, but very disappointed not seeing that Fonza Davis getting any minutes. I don't know if he's not fully fit. I don't know what's going on with him, but I think that they really, really miss him badly. You get what I'm saying? But I think they should be fine regardless of playing. Not, I know they will definitely love to be at a home side, but I think they should have enough just to get past the South Africa team.
You know that with them going against South Africa, and Switzerland possibly could face one of the best third spot in Group J, which is think might be Algeria. I think Switzerland probably would like to face South Africa, and Canada would like to face Algeria. So it probably working out at this moment in the favor of Canada finish second in that group. You get what I'm saying? But with the support that we see them get in Toronto, in Vancouver when the game played in British Virgin Island, in massive support for them as well. So, folks, that's it. With the Nicardo podcast. Much love and respect if you are watching. On various different channel. Nicardo podcast YouTube channel, or Daniel Talk Football at Nicardo Media House. Continue to support. Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel, and also watch the clips. Yeah, watch the clips as well. So, yeah, we'll come to an end. Let's see what will happen. Coming up on the what as you say, the 26th. Yeah, coming up on the 26th. What's your prediction of just the scoreline prediction? Norway versus France.
I see France winning that game. France definitely winning that game. Senegal, Iraq. I see Senegal winning that match to get through. Cape Verde, Saudi Arabia. I see Cape Verde winning that game as well. Uruguay, Spain. I see Spain definitely winning that match.
There's some issues with Uruguay where they draw Marcelo Bielsa in a meeting that they're not happy how the team is training. I heard that Marcelo Bielsa brought around 3 players in this World Cup team who are injured players, but he brought them in because they are loyal to him, of not try to sell him out to lose his job. So there's so many chaos around Uruguay. But yeah, Egypt and Iran.
I think Egypt would definitely win that game. I think Egypt looked quality in the last game. I think I was really impressed with this Egypt team. So I think they should have enough. Yeah. Even though Iran was really impressive against Belgium to get that point. But I think Egypt should have enough to win that game. And then last match, I think if Belgium cannot win that game, they might just pack their bags and just call off the federation. But I think they should definitely at least win that game. They got back Doku. Doku is back. I see that should definitely help them a little bit. So I think they should definitely able to get that win for sure.
Yeah. Look, I have France to win that game 2-0 versus Norway. Senegal should beat Iraq. Looking at what the Senegal team needs to do versus Iraq, I see Senegal winning that game 3-0. Cape Verde will beat Saudi Arabia 2-1 in the game. I see Spain beating Uruguay team 1-0. I see Iran and Egypt draw 1-1. That's what I see. I see that game draw 1-1. And also New Zealand and Belgium, I see the Red Devils winning that game 3-1. It cannot get any worse if they cannot beat the Kiwis. it cannot get any worse if they cannot beat this New Zealand team. They're good, but they have to beat them to move on to the next stage. And that's really it. That is a prediction. Catch us tomorrow again, reacting to Group I, H, and G as well until the group ends. And then when the knockout round start on Sunday between Canada and South Africa, that's where we will start and do our reaction as well. But much love and respect to each and everyone. Don't forget to, to like up the video and subscribe to each channels that you're watching on.